Welcome to Mrs. True Crime. Today's video is an in-depth look into the unsolved murders of the Miyazawa family, also known as the Setagaya murders. It's a tale of bewilderment and savagery. If you are triggered by anything dealing with death and or brutality, feel free to click off this video. Perhaps check out my gaming channel, Retell Me Games, for some lighthearted content. If not, I'm Nicole. Let's get started. According to the Global Study of Homicide of 2013, the average homicide rate is 6.2 people per every 100,000. Countries such as Eastern Asia, Southern Europe, and Western Europe have 5 times lower that amount. From the mid-1950s to 2011, homicide rates in Europe and Asia have steadily decreased, Japan being one of these players. Yet, just because murder has decreased doesn't mean it doesn't happen. The Miyazawas were your typical Japanese family. The patriarch of the family was Mikio Miyazawa, a 44-year-old who adored theater and worked for Intra, a London-based marketing consultancy. At the time of Mikio's death, the company had offices in 19 countries. That number is now 17. Mikio's co-workers found him to be congenial, and that he wasn't the type to easily make enemies. The matriarch was Yasuko Miyazawa, a 31-year-old teacher who worked from home. Many found her to be just as friendly as her husband. The children were 8-year-old Nina, a lover of ballet, and 6-year-old Rei, who had a speech impediment. The family lived in Tokyo, Japan, in the Setagaya Ward, in the Kamisoshiga neighborhood. They moved into the residence in the 1990s, along with 200 other families. However, that number began to dwindle down when the park began construction. The skate park was located behind the Miyazawa's house, and was small enough not to cause a nuisance. But the city was beginning to expand the property. The expansion had now left only 4 families remaining in the neighborhood: Miyazawa's, Yasukio's relatives, and 2 other families. With the expansion, however, came consequences. The once quiet park was now loud and annoying, causing Mikio to argue with the skateboarder a few days prior to his death, as well as an argument with the Bisosukyo, a motorcycle gang. Eventually, the Miyazawas concluded it was time for a change and was set to move in March 2001. The house the Miyazawas were leaving behind was a 3-story semi-detached home with a fence around it. It had a study on the first floor, bedrooms on the second, and a ladder that led to a loft on the third. Yasukio's mother, Asahi Jinio, sister, and brother-in-law lived next door. From the outside, the home looked like a single-family residence, but in fact was split in 2, the Miyazawas on the left and Yasukio's family on the right. The only way to get to the Miyazawa's home from the other, or vice versa, was to go outside. In the week leading up to the unfortunate murder, witnesses would claim to see 3 unsettling things. On Christmas Day, Yasuko would mention to her father-in-law about a car she had seen parked repeatedly outside their home. 2 days later, witnesses described a man in his 40s wandering around the home. And then, 2 days after that, on the 29th, witnesses see a man similarly dressed to the suspect near Seijo-Kun-in-ma Station, which is about 1.7 miles away from Kamisoshiga. Then, the following day, yet another man is seen dressed similar to the suspect near Sengawa Station, located a mile away from Kamisoshiga, ranging from 35 to 40 years old. On December 30th, 2000, the Miyazawa family went about their normal lives. They reportedly went shopping around 6 p.m. Witnesses state that Mikio's car wasn't home at 6:30 p.m. At some point between 6:30 and 7, the family returns, as at 7 p.m., Yasuko called her mother next door. From then until 9:38 p.m., Nina had gone next door to watch a TV program on her grandmother's computer. A little after 10, a witness reported hearing the sounds of a heated argument transpiring. There were no sounds of physical harm or crashing. The last known movements of the Miyazawa family was at 10:38 to 10:45 p.m. when Mikio received an email on the family computer and went to open it. Mikio would remain downstairs until his body would be found the next morning. Between 10:45 and 11 p.m., an intruder crept over the Miyazawa's fence, climbed a tree, and entered their home through an open second-story window. It's possible the intruder cut open the screen in order to access the home. He wore a white and velvet sweatshirt, dark pants, a green hip bag, size 9 Salinger sneakers, an iron black handkerchief, a hat, scarf, and a down jacket. On his person was a long sashimi knife, bought that morning for $40 at a nearby shop. The intruder began his spree with 6-year-old Ray first. Ray was sleeping on the second story of the home in his bunk bed. The intruder slowly strangled the boy to death. Ray is the only family member who would be murdered this way. The next order of events have been theorized by police. Leaving Ray's room, the intruder becomes startled by Mikio, who either heard a noise or is going upstairs on his own accord. The two then fight, leaving Mikio with more than 10 knife wounds to the neck. He is then either pushed or falls backwards down the stairs, landing at the foot of the staircase. According to Yusukio's mother, she heard a loud thud around 11:30 p.m. from the Miyazawas. This may have been Mikio's body falling. The last to be attacked are Yusuko and Nina. Where exactly they were attacked is hard to make out. Their bodies were found at the foot of the ladder leading to the third-floor loft. However, Nina's blood was found on the bed in the loft as well as on a few bandages from a first aid kit. It's possible the intruder tried to attack them upstairs with a sashimi knife, but found it was unusable and went to the kitchen to get a knife. During his search, Yusuko and Nina made their way downstairs to the first aid kit to wrap up their wounds, but are found by the intruder with a new knife and are violently killed. Of all the four members, Yusuko and Nina's death were the most savage, so much so that it was determined even after their deaths he continued to stab them. Ray, Yusuko, and Nina were all dressed for bed. Mikio is the only one dressed in normal clothes. After these vicious attacks, the killer still remained in the home. He bandaged his wound with the first aid kit, leaving behind bandages in the kitchen, on the refrigerator, and in the living room. When he ran out of supplies, he then used Yusuko's menstrual pads, leaving those behind in the bathtub. From there, he rummaged through the home, disturbing papers and other personal effects about the floor. 2 empty wallets would be found, and 150,000 yen, or 1,322 US dollars, would be taken from the residency. However, bank cards, deposit certificates, and more cash would be left behind. Still, the killer remained in the home. He took 4 cups of ice cream from the freezer and ate it, possibly walking around the home or doing his rummaging mission, as the empty containers were found ripped apart on the second floor. While there, he also used the bathroom, not bothering to flush it. The police would determine that he had eaten sesame seeds and string beans the day prior. He also managed to take a nap on the second floor couch at some point as well. At 1 a.m., he then accessed the computer, trying to buy tickets to a theater group that was saved already on the computer by Mikio. He would once again access the computer at 10 a.m. the following morning. For close to 12 hours, the killer lounged around the home of the family he had just murdered. It is unclear how or when the intruder left the home. Yusukio's mother, Asahi, tried calling the home the next morning but couldn't receive an answer. Unbeknownst to her, the phone line had been cut. Growing worried, Asahi rang the doorbell, noticing the door was locked, then used her key to unlock the door, and that's where she found her son-in-law's body. The police were immediately called and ran through the crime scene. What was most interesting about all of this was the amount of DNA left behind at the scene from blood to feces. The killer left behind both knives, his now bloody sweatshirt, and a bandana glove, footprints outside of the window, his pants that contained Japanese zakova leaves, willow leaves, and bird droppings in the pockets, his hip bag that had sand grains from the Mojave Desert, which is located in America, inside, and an iron handkerchief with traces of Dracar Noir aftershave. The only thing that was missing outside of the 150,000 yen was an old sweater the killer may have taken. At first, the police believed there were 3 killers because of how destroyed the home looked upon first entry. especially once a taxi driver came forward stating that 3 men got into his car near the Miyazawa's home, with one leaving blood on his seat. This lead, however, grows cold. Eventually, police conclude only one person was found at the scene by evidence of the footprints. Though manpower grew with each passing clue found on the property of Miyazawa's killer hasn't been any closer to justice. All that's known about the killer based on the genetic makeup of his DNA is that his blood type is A. He's roughly 5'7" and is of mixed race, with his mother being of European descent and his father being of Asian descent. Every year since the murder, on December 30th, the Japanese police force, as well as friends and family, pay their respects to the Kamisoshiga block and the Setagaya Ward in Tokyo, Japan, where the Miyazawa home still sits 17 years later. The reward for finding the killer has been raised from 3 million yen to 10 million yen, and anyone with information is urged to call 03-3482-3829. The Miyazawas never got a chance to experience the highs and lows the 2000s had to offer. Ishii never got the privilege of watching her grandchildren grow up, and no one has understood why the heinous crime took place. Maybe someday this family can have justice, and Mikyo, Yusuko, Nina, and Rei can finally have peace. I'm Mrs. True Crime, and remember to be kind, be loud, be aware. For more information about the Miyazawa family, why not check out some of these awesome links? And if you like what you saw and heard today, why not drop a like and a comment? Maybe subscribe while you're here? I make new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and you don't want to miss what's in store.